Section 3, Lecture 9, I explained the various components of a blockchain project ecosystem. In Lecture 10, I will now explain security in blockchain and top investors in blockchain. So in terms of security in blockchain, let's look at the different levels at which security needs to be provided in a blockchain. We start at the basic level, that is at the transactional level, then at the user accounts level, at the programming level, at the distribution or distributed organization, or at the peer-to-peer level, then at the network level, and then at the governance level. So let's start with the first one, that is transaction level. So we need to find out whether are the transactions validated with certainty. So what is the minimum required level for a blockchain to be bona fide? How will each transaction be validated? So to have a good, well-functioning blockchain, we need to ensure that the transactions are validated with certainty and predictability at the end of a consensus cycle. So consensus method plays a very important role in confirming the transaction or validating the transaction with certainty. So once the transaction is validated, then the transaction finality is achieved. Now, next, if you look at user accounts, we need to ensure that the question could be, are the user accounts secure? Now in a public blockchain that doesn't matter, but what about a private blockchain? So the user accounts have to be made secure. And how do we do that? So in terms of the account level on the user accounts, we will look at two things. A user account should be self-managed via private wallet, and it could be a hosted account at an exchange. So either ways it should be secure. And so for example, there should be no hacking, because the hacking would compromise on the exchange and would impact the user account. So if there is a private wallet, then you need to ensure that there is no replay attack and the private wallet data is not hacked. Otherwise, the whole objective of having your own data will be lost. So after looking at are the transactions validated with certainty, then we talk about the user accounts being secure either at the individual level or at the exchange level. Then we look at programming. Are the contracts performing with intended accuracy? So if you are using a smart contract or a script, that script or the contract should not be compromised. So there would be examples where if there is a vulnerability involved, then that could hack and could lead to maybe even a disappearance of funds or a drainage of funds to the wrong place. So in a very nice example, Vitalik Buterin had given a very brief and a good explanation and classification of smart contracts and how the security should be achieved, because smart contract involves payment of money, and the payment in the wrong hands could create a havoc. So after looking at transactions level, user account level, programming level, next we will look at is the distributed organization level. Are sound operational practices used? Means, is the practices which are being followed, are they smart, are they sound, or is there any risk with autonomy among the peers? And if there is a risk, then it should be tested and mitigated. Otherwise, it could create problem if the whole blockchain is autonomously executed. So the flaws in the operations have to be avoided. So operations becomes very important in case of how we are going to map it to the organization and use it later. The next aspect of security we look at is in the network. Since a blockchain is a peer-to-peer network, it is a physical and a virtual connection present among all the peers. So when the consensus is going to run, we have to ensure that 51% attack risk is mitigated. Otherwise, it could be a vulnerability. An attacker can put in enough efforts into the transaction and the validation could be reversed or could go wrong. So as far as the security is concerned, there should be a soundness of the algorithm which is used, the protocols which are used across the network, and the economies which are used across the network, so that any risk or attacks can be mitigated. And the next we look at is in terms of governance. So, is decision making a well-defined representative of stakeholders, or only a few stakeholders are involved? Now, this is very important because when you're carrying out any decision making, you need to have the right set of people involved or the right set of members involved so that organizational governance can be maintained. So for example, like in Bitcoin, which is everyone, and you can have a strategic decision, but then you need to involve everybody together. So, blockchain basically has been extensively deployed at the terms of the POC level in various organizations with a strong focus on security in terms of all these levels, including at the governance level. So, crimes, cyber crimes, robbery, theft, hacks can all be looked at critically, and technology can help in ensuring that such security issues do not occur. So once you have a fair idea about the security in terms of the transactions at the user account level, programming level, distributed organization level, network level, and governance level, in the next section, we will look at the top investors in blockchain. As you can see in the figure here, this is a global scenario where we have a lot of blockchain investors like Goldman Sachs, Google, Andreessen Horowitz, Digital Currency Group, Blockchain Capital, Draper Associates, etc. And all of them, and with them, many different Indian startups. All of them are working together and getting significant funding to look at how to adopt blockchain. So as you can see in the figure over here with the adaptation source given below, we have some adaptation moving on in terms of the power and the utilities sector, public sector, good level in the energy and mining sector, industrial product sector, retail and consumer sector, healthcare, technology, media and telecommunication, automotive sector, financial services, and hospitality and leisure. And as you can see, there is a good amount of investment happening in the hospitality, leisure, financial services, and automotive, and little less in the other sectors. But it's expected that, as you can see, the good hefty amount of 36%, a large growth is expected in the next 3 years in the financial services, and some in the healthcare and even in leisure services. So here we started with the concepts of how security is important at every level in the blockchain. Then I spoke about the top investors in blockchain, which is lecture number 10. In lecture 11, I will briefly focus on the benefits, challenges and standards related to blockchain.